Hi everyone, welcome. Today we are going to be building a product assistant using Microsoft Copilot Studio for a fictional company called Contoso Air. Think Expedia or Travelocity without the copyright baggage. I'll show you how to structure your files so you get the best possible answers. I'll show you several different ways on how to have Copilot consume those files. And at the end of this video, you'll have your first working agent. So let's jump into it. We've got 3 Markdown files. Let's start with overview.md, which explains what Contoso Air is all about. Markdown is a lightweight markup language that uses plain characters like hashtags and asterisks to structure content with headings, lists, and links. Each file focuses on a single topic and is organized with clear sections and paragraphs. This isn't just for human readers, it's intentionally designed so AI can easily understand and retrieve the right information. This is booking.md. We're going to be working with this selection of text, how to book flights, throughout this demo. This is pricing.md, which includes all pricing details, policies, and step-by-step guidance. Let's talk about chunking. And no, I'm not talking about eating cookies by the handful. Large language models like Copilot don't process entire documents at once. Instead, they divide content into smaller sections called chunks, typically around 300 tokens each, which equals about 200 to 300 words. Each chunk acts like an index card, focusing on a single idea. When a user asks a question, the model searches through those chunks to find the most relevant one. This is how it keeps answers grounded in actual content, rather than making assumptions. Let's look at 2 examples on the screen. At the top, the good chunk. It's clearly structured, focused on one task, and written with clean formatting. This makes it easy for the model to understand and retrieve. At the bottom, the bad chunk, it's unstructured, vague, and combines too many ideas in one section. That makes it harder for the model to match it to a specific question. The takeaway is simple. Structure matters. Clear, well-organized chunks lead to better, more accurate answers. Alright, we're back in Copilot Studio and we're going to use the wizard in order to create our first agent. It suggested which agent name to use. Contoso Air Assistant sounds great. I'm getting impatient, so let's just skip to configuration. Alright, we're in configuration. You can see it populated some details for us based on the wizard. Let's class it up a little bit and put in an icon. That's very nice. I like that. Okay, let's create this agent. Our agent is created. Let's add a knowledge source. Let's start with the easiest way possible to add content to a knowledge store, which is simply copying the files to the knowledge store. Now, you're going to want to provide a description for each file to help Copilot know what the contents are of that file. It's pretty incredible how fast I can type. Those are uploading. Great. Now they're in there and they are ready. So let's ask it, how do I book a flight? And you'll see it's checking the knowledge store sources. And it now returned back the correct information for how to book a flight based on the good chunk. Okay, let's clean up after ourselves and delete out all these files. So for the use case, it's great for prototyping and iteration, and you get quick results without external dependencies. Pros: fast and easy setup, private and secure, full control over formatting and chunking, but the cons are it takes manual updates and it's not collaborative. Okay, for the next demo, you're simply looking at the same content, but I've copied it into a Word document and I've added the headings and titles. So why Word documents? You get the full formatting tools, it's deeply integrated with Copilot, it's easy for non-tech users, You could also use PowerPoint and Markdown. But what's not supported in Copilot is Excel and CSV files. And what's not great is text and JSON and PDF. Anything that doesn't chunk well. Now let's go into SharePoint and let's copy over those files after we create a folder. Now let's head back into Knowledge and let's add our SharePoint folder. Same deal, let's tell Copilot about the contents of that SharePoint folder. Great. Let's refresh, the status looks ready. And let's ask it the same question. How can I book a flight? And it's going to go and hit our SharePoint knowledge source this time. And it correctly finds it and it pulls back the correct information for how to book a flight. So that worked great. So the use case, internal agents across teams, docs that change frequently, and it supports multiple contributors. Pros, it's easy to update, there's version control built in, you can support multiple different file types, but the cons is it's slightly less precise chunking compared to Markdown. Now here's the same content, only Markdown rendered as HTML. I'll show you how I did that in a little bit. But you can see it's out on the web and there's our content. So let's add in a knowledge source and let's give it the URL to that website. Everything seems to be going well so far. Let's update the description like all the other knowledge sources. And it gets added. And it even says ready, but that's fake. It's a lie. And I'll show you why right now. How do I book a flight? And you can see it searches the sources and gives a convincing answer. However, the reference sources says it got skipped over, so it's not right. The LLM made up that answer. So at this point, what should we do? All right, I'm awake, I swear. Let's try it again. How do I book a flight? It's checking the web source. And this time, we noticed something a little bit different. It actually did hit our source, and it did work correctly. So let's see what happened. Okay, so now we're up on GitHub. These are the same 3 files we've been working with the whole time. I'm going to show you how I got those to render as HTML. So you can see there's a config YAML. This uses a plugin called Jekyll. And you have to have an index. And that's got a sitemap which points at the different MD files. And then robots.txt, which is how it gets crawled. And then you can see a Bing auth XML, which is how Bing actually finds the thing. And then on the site pages, you need to make sure to enable it and point at the root directory. Alright, but it really comes down to this Bing Webmaster Tools. You have to submit your URL here. You have to make sure that it's actually indexed successfully. You can try first testing it on the live URL to debug any information needed. And then once this is working, you can check and see what the actual index says. And if that looks good, you request indexing. And then you wait for some amount of time, and eventually it will start working. Mine took several days. So the use case for this is public-facing agents for external users. It's Markdown-based documents, and it supports multiple contributors. Pros, it's free hosting. There's Git version control, which is better than SharePoint in my opinion. It's public and crawlable, which can have sensitive information. Some setup knowledge, and you need to register with Bing. Now, I did gloss over how to actually create the GitHub pages. I intended this tutorial to show you how to set up knowledge sources within Copilot Studio. I didn't intend to show it how to enable GitHub pages. I'm going to include in the description a link to the repository and a link to all the different websites we covered, such as Bing Webmaster Tools. And from there, it should just be a matter of creating your own repository, putting in your own Markdown files, and then updating the config files to reference those files, and then go and enable GitHub pages. So it's still very achievable and straightforward for you to get it working within GitHub pages. Just check the links in the description. Thank you.